Today I'll show you how SpreadsheetWeb helps you to turn your Excel workbooks into a web application in less than 30 minutes. There is an insurance company and they've been using Excel to calculate premiums for their insurance products. They have a complex model to calculate and they need a web application. So here is their workbook with all the information, all the inputs and all the calculations. First we need to do is to check the calculations and the name ranges, because if the name ranges are not matching or if they're missing and if the calculations are wrong, our web application will not work properly. After that, let's log into our SpreadsheetWeb account, and once we log in, we will see the control panel. From the control panel, we can access to our existing applications and we can create new ones. When we start creating a new application, we will choose the type of application. For today, we will go with the designer one. And now it's time for us to upload our Excel file. And let's give it a name. From this page, you can choose the application options and the groups. And it's completed. Now let's go to application. From this page, you can see all the features that you can use with your application. And in order to start designing it, let's go to the user interface. And now we have a blank page to edit our web application according to our Excel file. Let's take our Excel file here and now let's start building it. The first input is the customer name, so let's choose a text box. Let's drag and drop it here, and now we have to select the name range of it. And after that, you can change the display name to something you want. For this one, I will go with the customer name because it is the customer name in this workbook, but you can choose it according to your workbook as well. And now it's time for the second one. It is state, and as you can see, it's a drop down. It's a list. So let's go with the drop down. Let's choose its name range, and now it's time for the listed name range. Let's not forget to change the display name. It will save itself automatically, and when you click somewhere else, you will see the last thing you wrote or the last thing you changed. And now it's time for the plan type. Name range, the listed name range, and the display name. And for the options, we can use radio buttons as well. So for the fourth one, let's try the radio button. Let's select its name range and the listed name range, and display name. Now let's move on with the age. The next one. From the input section, you can choose the most suitable one for your application. For this workbook, we are using text box drop down and the radio buttons, but you can always use the other options as well. And selecting the name range is really important here, because if you select a wrong one, or if your name range is not existing in your Excel workbook, this will be a problem in your web application. And let's say you forget about the name range, you don't remember what is it, and you can always go back to your Excel file to find it, to get a little help. For example, next one is the premium mode, and it's also a drop-down list, so let's select it from here, and for the name range, let's go here. See, it's mode, and now let's choose it. Let's move on with the next one, base policy face amount. Let's take our text box. Let's choose the name range and display name. And from here, as you can see, we have numbers here, so we can change the text mask, and we can also decide on the minimum and the maximum values. And now let's move on to the next one. We have a list here and the name range. And now let's say you forgot about the list name range and you're not sure. Again, you can always go back to your Excel workbook, and you can always view it from the data validation part. And as you see, the source is here, so we can just go ahead and choose our list name range. And our last two inputs. And for the options, we also use radio buttons, so let's use radio buttons for these as well. But let's change the radio button type for now. The accidental tab, select name range. And from the display type, we can change the radio button type. Let's say list for that. And for the next one, for the waiver of premium, let's choose the name range, the list name range, and the display type. And let's choose icon for this. As you can see, we have all the inputs here: customer name, state, plan type, premium mode, age, gender, tobacco usage, premium mode, base policy face amount, children's insurance rider amount, accidental benefit rider, and waiver of premium. Before we add the total premium, our output, let's do a preview. From here, you can do a preview to your web application to see what you have done so far. And you can see all the inputs we put with all the types of it here. Now let's go and add our total premium. For the total premium, you have two options. As you can see from the Excel file, it's an output, but you can also add it as input and disable editing. But today, let's use it as an output. We take the output content here, and when we click on the edit content, we will see a blank page like this. From here, you can edit the text and you can insert stubs. Let's write the name range. After that, you can select the type and the format of it, but you can also pull it from the Excel file. After you insert it, it will be looking like this. You can also add these manually, or you can also use the other calculations here. After that, let's write the total premium and edit our text. And when you save it, it will be looking like this. And now let's add an action button in order to save the collected data. Let's change the text and let's change the style. It will change the button's colors. And from this section, you can add and save event to your button. Before we test the application, we need to have a database in order to save all the data. And let's go to the database page, click on Add New, and give it a name. When you create it, click on the Edit, and here you will see all the system generated columns, and from this part you can add them manually or you can add the used columns. When you click on the used columns, the system will detect all the data, their name ranges and their data type. You can double check them or change their type or change their names. You will not be able to change the name range because the system detects them, but you are free to change the column name. I'm changing them because it will be helpful when it's time to work on the data. You will not see it as the name ranges and it will not be confusing. And also, if there is something wrong, you can also change the data type. You can select a new type for it. And when you're working on the integer ones, you can also decide whether to allow null values, or you can also decide on the maximum values. Also, you can change descriptions, and you don't just have to add the names in the Excel file or in the workbook. You can just add anything. It's supposed to be tobacco usage, but let's use just tobacco instead and add a description as tobacco usage. And when you hit on next, the next one will be shown. And you can also just skip or just click on next. When you skip, that column will not be seen on your database and you won't be collecting the data for that. But when you say next, it will not change anything and automatically add the data. And you're finished. And from here you can see all the user generated ones, and you can edit or delete them But as you realized, we didn't have a used column option for the output ones. We can add them manually from here. When you're adding manually, you have to select the name range. Let's add the total premium. And you have to select the data type. System will not detect it automatically. And it's integer. Let's change the column name. And if you want, again, you can decide on the maximum value, or you can allow or not allow the no values. And you don't just have to use the existing calculations or the existing columns. You can manually add just new ones. Let's give it a try with this calculation. And when we create it, we will be able to see it from here. And our database is created. Now let's go and test the application and compare it with the Excel file. I will choose the same things as in the Excel file to test it. And here you see the total premium we have in the application, and the Excel file matches. That means our application will work perfectly. Now we can go back and publish our application. Once we publish the application, everyone who has access to see it or edit it will be able to view and work on the web application. Our application is published successfully. From here you can view the data, but we don't have any saved data for now, so let's go and try one. And this is Caroline's total premium. Let's save it and see what happens. It's saved successfully. Now we can go here and view the data. From this page, you are able to see all the data created, their creating dates, their last update, their status, and you can take all the actions from here. Also, you can have all these actions from these buttons. You can decide on the columns, you can edit them, and let's delete the group and add a new one instead. When you click on the columns, you can delete them from here, and from here you can add new columns. Let's add the state. Let's write the label. And once we save it, we will not see group anymore, but we will see the state. And also you can change the record status here. Record status are configurable on the application basis, and it's a great part of the workflow actually. You can also assign it to a specific group, or you can enter notes. And once you save it, it will be seen like this. You can also manage the status colors. These are the default ones. We have new, pending, approved, payment successful and payment cancelled. But you are also free to add custom ones and delete the default ones. And when you change the status, you will see the colors. And also, you may want to check who is doing what in your application. You can view other users and their activities from the analytics page here. When you go to the analytics page, you will see a page like this, and you will see the list. You can take actions on this list, and it looks a bit complicated now, but you can also filter in order to see just the things you want to see. Let's choose a start date and an end date. When you update it, you will just see the associated activities. Also, you can manage on the users, groups, and their roles. Let's go to the users page. From here, you can see all the users. You can add new users, or you can edit the existing users and remove their account as well. That was all for today, and to conclude, with SpreadsheetWeb, it is possible to turn any Excel file into a web application without coding. Also, you can manage, share, and work on your data easily. Thank you.